The SEAL commander lowered his binoculars, a smirk cutting across his face. "One woman sniper against 14 militants. She'll last 6 minutes at best." His words carried the finality of a death sentence. But 6 minutes later, 14 enemy fighters would be sprawled lifeless in the Kunar Valley, and Commander Grant Riker would be forced to confront a truth he'd spent his career ignoring. Her name was Staff Sergeant Aria Voss. Call sign Phantom Raven 29. Dark hair usually braided tight. Eyes the steel gray of a storm front. Eyes that could track movement at 1/600 meters, even through mountain fog. For 3 years, she had served as a designated marksman across special operations units. Her scores shattered records. Her kill tests rewrote standards. Yet in every briefing she remained the female sniper headquarters had forced into the roster. They didn't have to say it aloud. She heard it in locker room silence. Saw it in commanders who nodded politely and moved on. Aria's upbringing was nothing like theirs. She was raised in the Yukon wilderness, 50 miles from the nearest neighbor, where every storm was a trial by fire. Her father, Major Elias Voss, once Delta Force's most decorated sniper with 102 confirmed kills, left the army after his wife's death to raise Aria alone. Out there, every winter was training, every hunt a live fire drill. By 14, she was dropping caribou at 800 meters with rifles her father had modified. By 16, she could vanish into the timberline for weeks, reappearing leaner, sharper, leaving no trace behind. Elias drilled her not just in shooting, but in the science of wind, angles, and patience. "Any fool can hit when conditions are perfect," he told her. "A real sniper hits when everything is wrong." That doctrine became her creed, because one day, she knew, the battlefield would give her those impossible conditions and demand an answer. And that moment was closer than anyone realized. Aria carried not failure, but the weight of doubt. To senior commanders, she was never simply a soldier. She was the experiment, the checkbox, the risk. Marksmen on the range aren't warriors in combat. They muttered. They questioned her stamina, her nerve, her aggression. She didn't argue. She didn't need to. Calm was mistaken for weakness, silence for timidity, but behind that quiet, she was always watching, always learning. Her first deployment, with a ranger company in Syria, was a cold reception. She was posted to distant overwatch, cut from planning tables, treated as a burden imposed by brass. Aria endured it like she endured Yukon blizzards with patience, waiting for storms to break. And then came Commander Grant Riker, at 43, with 18 years of SEAL operations and 3 Bronze Stars. He was the embodiment of old-school dominance, fast, aggressive, lethal. He built his reputation on direct action raids, breaching doors before enemies knew they were being hunted. To him, strength meant muscle and aggression, not stillness and calculation. "Voss is technically proficient," he said flatly. "But combat isn't about equations, it's about guts when bullets fly. Support roles fit her better." He wasn't alone in his disdain, but he wore it proudly. His men loved him for his ferocity. No one challenged him. Aria didn't fight the prejudice head-on. She studied it, in her downtime. She pored over his after-action reports, dissected his methods. Patterns emerged. Riker leaned on overwhelming force, direct approaches, aggression that crushed scattered militias but risked disaster against disciplined foes. She stored it all away, because one day his confidence would lead them into the wrong valley, against the wrong enemy, on the wrong night. That day had a name, Operation Iron Dagger. The Hindu Kush mountains were black teeth against the stars, jagged and endless. Deep inside the Kunar Valley, intelligence flagged a high-value target, a radical commander meeting his council inside a fortified mountain stronghold riddled with cliffside tunnels. The package was extensive, but not complete. Satellite images outlined the structure but missed the forest canopy. Intercepts hinted at the time of the meeting, but not the strength of the guard force. Official estimates called it manageable. Aria's instincts screamed otherwise. She read the landscape like a second language, trails cut too neat, as if boots had worn them in recent weeks, fresh scarring on bark that suggested ropes had been used to hoist equipment, vegetation bent in patterns no storm could create, hinting at concealed positions, and the smell faint cordite, burned powder lingering where no hunting rifle should have fired. The signs weren't just there, they were shouting. The plan, as always under Riker, was brutally simple: a direct assault with his 8 SEALs. Aria would sit back, nearly 900 meters out, in a position he had chosen on the tactical map. From there, she'd watch their backs, pick off stragglers, nothing more. She studied the terrain and saw what he didn't. The ridgeline to the east offered overlapping fields of fire, multiple escape corridors, and a clear vantage point over potential flanking routes. She raised it cautiously, respectfully. "Sir, if I move to this ridge," Riker's jaw tightened. "Voss, I've been planning operations since before you held a rifle. You'll stay where you're ordered. This isn't a classroom. No improvisation." She swallowed the reply. Out loud. She gave the expected, "Yes, sir." Inwardly, she began building her own plan. A contingency he would never approve, but that reality might demand. Insertion was flawless. The team ghosted through tree line, their discipline as sharp as their rifles. Aria settled into the assigned overwatch, laying prone behind her scope. The stronghold loomed ahead, a cluster of concrete bunkers etched into the cliff, watchtowers bristling with gun barrels, everything the satellite predicted, and yet more. Through her glass, she caught movement in the periphery. Camouflaged fighting positions tucked so carefully into the terrain, they vanished to the naked eye. Radio antennas dressed as dead branches. Weapon caches buried beneath mats of false vegetation. It wasn't random defense. It was a network. Her throat tightened. This wasn't 20 guards. This was a killing field, layered and waiting. Phantom Raven. "This is steel." Riker's voice cracked in her ear. "We're approaching. Maintain overwatch. Report movement." She tracked their silhouettes, moving with perfect formation, elite operators advancing like wolves. But her magnified lens betrayed what they could not see. Shadows sliding into place. Fighters shifting in silence. Trigger fingers curling around steel. Steel. "Raven here. I've got multiple fighters north of your position, 50 meters. Defensive spread forming. They're closing a net." A pause. Then the curt reply. "Maintain radio discipline. Phantom. No immediate threats. Hold position." Her chest burned. They don't see it. They can't see it. And then the trap snapped shut. The valley erupted in fire. Automatic bursts ripped the night. Muzzle flashes strobing from every angle. SEALs dived for cover that didn't exist, pinned in a cauldron of crossfire. Explosions tore through the soil. Contact, contact. Riker's shout was raw panic. "We're hit from multiple positions. Where the hell did they come from?" Aria's scope painted the whole horror 14 enemy fighters in a flawless, enveloping arc, more closing to seal the escape. Riker's men crouched in a clearing, exposed, seconds from annihilation. "Steel. This is Raven," she snapped. "I've got visual on all 14. I can end this. But I need to move now. Negative. Raven. Hold position and wait for orders." But Aria Voss was already on her feet, rifle slung tight, gear rattling as she cut through the timberline. Commander Riker's pride was going to bury every man under his command. She refused to stand by and watch 8 American warriors die because of his blindness. Her boots kissed deer trails. Her body bent with the wind. 60 pounds of gear moved as though weightless. Every step was calculation, every breath concealment. She had trained her entire life for this moment, the moment where conventional tactics collapsed, and only the unconventional could save lives. The position she chose wasn't the one ordered. It was worse, steeper. Nearly suicidal and exposed rocky outcrop only her Yukon childhood had prepared her to scale. But from there, she would own the field. From there, she could see every muzzle flash, every shadow, every man moving to kill the SEALs. She settled her rifle, steel eyes narrowing through the scope. The battlefield below was chaos. Riker's squad huddled behind splintering rocks. The enemy pressed, confident, closing the noose. Aria's breath slowed. Her father's voice echoed in memory. A real sniper fires when everything is wrong. She exhaled once. Steady. The crosshairs kissed the chest of the enemy commander. The trigger broke. The battle for Iron Dagger had just turned. And with it, the moment that would rewrite her place in history. The rocky outcrop Aria chose was a brutal climb, but to her it felt like home. The jagged cliff face mirrored the Yukon ridges where her father had taught her to move like a ghost, to scale stone until her hands bled, to rest her rifle in places no sane hunter would think reachable. She wedged herself into a natural crease. Heart steady, lungs controlled, scope aligned on chaos below. Through her crosshairs she saw it all. Riker's SEALs pressed flat against shallow ground, trading fire but hopelessly pinned. They were skilled, disciplined, but the battlefield was rigged against them. 14 enemy fighters held perfect enfilade positions, their arcs overlapping in lethal precision. It was the kind of ambush designed not just to kill, but to annihilate. The first shot mattered most. Always. Aria had identified the enemy commander, a wiry man with a radio pressed to his cheek, orchestrating the storm through clipped hand signals. End him, and the body of the ambush would shudder without its head. Distant 612 meters, wind variable, gusting along cliffside funnels, target mobile, partially screened by jagged stone. It was the shot that defined a sniper, the kind where conditions lied, where angles betrayed, where hesitation meant death. Aria's pulse slowed. Her father's voice echoed. A real sniper hits when everything is wrong. She squeezed. The commander collapsed mid-gesture, radio tumbling into dirt, hand frozen in half a signal that would never be completed. Confusion rippled instantly. Fighters who seconds ago looked like predators now twitched, glancing wildly into shadows. The kill was surgical, and the dissection of the ambush had begun. Aria's next shot lanced through a fist-sized gap in foliage, striking a heavy machine gunner who had been shredding Riker's position. The body pitched sideways, weapon silent. Third and fourth shots flanking fighters eliminated before their boots completed their maneuver. Aria had switched into rapid target acquisition, a skill Elias drilled into her when she was 14, snapping tin cans off fence posts without lowering her barrel. Below. SEAL helmets turned skyward, disbelief visible even at distance. They didn't understand where salvation was coming from, only that it came with thunderous precision. By the fifth shot, panic was spreading. The hunters were now the hunted, stalked by something unseen, uncatchable, discipline frayed. Muzzle flashes grew erratic. Voices rose, frantic. Aria tracked 2 fighters bolting for the tree line runners who thought speed would save them. 6th and 7th shots cut them down mid-stride, their bodies folding into brush. The 8th, 9th, and 10th fell almost in unison. The enemy tried to consolidate, huddling behind a broken berm for strength in numbers. But Aria had already anticipated the convergence, already placed her reticle on the one angle their bodies couldn't protect. 3 shots, 3 crumpled silhouettes, through the comms. Riker's voice cracked with disbelief. "Phantom, where the hell are those shots coming from?" "This is Raven," Aria answered calmly, chambering her next round. "I'm eliminating threats. Keep your men low and be ready to move." The 11th shot saved a life. Riker's medic had been marked by a rival sniper, his scope glint betraying the intent. Aria caught the muzzle flash a split second before it spat death, her own round threading brush to erase him before he could fire again. Now only 3 remained. 2 tried to retreat deeper into the stronghold. 12th and 13th shots intercepted them mid-flight, Aria's bullets punching through gaps in rock as though guided by instinct. The last fighter hunkered behind a fallen log, covered from almost every angle. Almost. Aria inched her reticle across a 6-inch lane framed between 2 pine trunks, the kind of shot no manual dared describe, because probability said it was impossible. Probability had never governed her. Her breath feathered out. She pressed. The 14th target collapsed. Silence reclaimed the valley, broken only by the ringing in seal ears and the ragged gasps of men who moments ago believed they would die. 6 minutes, 14 kills, 0 losses. Aria keyed her mic. Threat eliminated. "Sir, field secure. Proceed with primary mission, but in the eyes of every operator who had just survived." The primary mission had already changed. The mission was now her. And Commander Grant Riker, for the first time in his career, was forced to admit the battlefield had proven him wrong. The strike on the stronghold proceeded with mechanical efficiency, with the ambush shattered. The SEALs stormed the tunnels, cleared the chambers, and executed the high-value target with minimal resistance. It was a surgical raid, logged cleanly in after-action reports. But the true operation, the one no report could capture, had already happened. It had played out in 6 minutes of chaos where one underestimated sniper held back the avalanche of death. Extraction came under the weight of silence. The helicopter's rotors drowned conversation. Yet inside the cargo bay, every operator's gaze drifted toward Aria Voss. She sat steady, rifle across her knees, face expressionless, to them. She wasn't the female sniper anymore. She was the phantom who had made their survival possible. Commander Riker sat across from her, helmet off, eyes fixed. Gone was the condescension, gone the smirk, the dismissive tone. What stared back at her was respect raw, undeniable, earned in blood. "Voss," he said quietly, voice stripped of rank. "I owe you more than an apology. I've never seen anything like it. 14 enemies, 6 minutes. Perfect shots under impossible conditions. You saved my team." Aria's reply was simple. "Steady. Sir, I just did my job." Riker shook his head, conviction hardening his jaw. "No. You didn't just do your job. You redefined it. You showed me what a sniper really is in the months that followed. Operation Iron Dagger became more than a mission code. It became a case study, circulated across special operations commands worldwide. Analysts called it a perfect sniper engagement, proof that doctrine had to evolve. Training syllabi were rewritten. War colleges debated her choices. 9 months later, Staff Sergeant Aria Voss was promoted to Master Sniper Instructor, charged with teaching a new generation. She combined wilderness craft with modern ballistics, crafting what came to be known as the Phantom Method. Her students learned not only how to shoot, but how to think, how to wait, how to know when the impossible shot mattered most. And Commander Riker, the man who once dismissed her as an inconvenience, became her staunchest advocate. His briefings to other officers often carried the same refrain: "If you want to know what precision and patience can do, study Voss. She doesn't just fire bullets, she controls the battlefield. Years later, when Riker pinned his admiral's stars and assumed command of Naval Special Warfare Group, his first personnel request was Aria Voss to serve as his senior sniper instructor. Two former antagonists now bound by a trust only forged in survival. But beyond promotions, beyond doctrine, beyond medals, the story of Phantom Raven lived as something deeper, because everyone, at some point, is underestimated. Everyone carries labels too young, too old, too quiet, too different. And sometimes, it takes one impossible moment, one crucible of chaos, to burn those labels to ash. Aria Voss didn't just eliminate 14 enemies in 6 minutes. She eliminated every assumption ever made about what women could achieve in combat. Her story reminds us when the storm comes, when the odds are stacked, what matters isn't perception, it's precision, patience, and the courage to bear responsibility when no one else can. So the next time doubt coils around you, remember Phantom Raven. Remember that the strongest victories come not from meeting expectations, but from shattering them so completely that the world is forced to change. And somewhere tonight, another Aria is waiting for her moment. Every story like this connects people across the world. Where are you watching from? Drop your city below. And subscribe so you're here for the next mission.